Well, hey everybody. It's Monday, December 2nd, 2024. I'm Jan Erickson, and this is As Above, So Below. Well, I hope you had a good Thanksgiving. I was going to try and do a reading on Thursday, but I was cooking, so it didn't gel, so unfortunately. So I hope you had a good day. Hope you had a good weekend. We tryptophaned out all weekend long, and I don't think we can eat another piece of turkey. So I have some left. I'm going to freeze it, probably for soup or something. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started, and we'll pull a rune, if one will ever end up in my hand. There we go. So we're going to start out with Alyi's. Now, Alyi's is the 15th rune of the Elder Futhark. The keywords for it are elk or elk sedge. The sedge would be the marshy grassland that they move around in and eat and hide in and all of that, because it kind of helps hide their antlers if they have them. To me, however, it looks just like you're raising your arms in supplication to the goddess when you're drawing down the moon on the full moon. So that's another way to look at it as well. I tend to look at the 3 points on the top as fire, air, and water, with earth on the bottom. So you can see that there. All energies, all of the energies coming down into form, basically. But Alyi's is about protection. Just like in terms of the elk seeking protection in the elk sedge. It's about protection. It's also the bridge between the lower realm and the higher realm, or the astral realm, or the soul. And so also you can think of this as divinity or higher consciousness, drawing higher consciousness into your awareness, your ego awareness, essentially. So let's see what the Geomancy elemental runes. I'm going to get a little closer here. We'll put them in the order of fire, air, water, and earth. And we have, we have Karser. Now, Karser is a very ego-based type of a rune. It's essentially means self-imprisonment. Its complement is conjunctio. This would be conjunctio, which would be union and joining. Looks like a little hourglass, but this is Karser, its complement. And so you can see it kind of looks like a little bird cage or a little ampule. But the idea is there's a sense of containment to that, and it's very difficult to step outside it. So it's isolation, somebody who isolates themselves away from others, or it's the imprisonment of beliefs and perceptions also that can be part of Karser. It could be fate, it could be outmoded ideas. But it's that feeling of you're kind of stuck there in perception. And you can't, or a set of beliefs that really probably aren't real. They may have come about due to some experience or whatever, but at some point maybe you've learned some other things, and it's no longer working for you, basically. And realistically, pairing that with Alyi's, you draw down higher awareness to dispel all of that and to let you out of your prison of perception and ego. So we'll see, though. We'll see what the cards have to say, if we're going to adjust that a little bit, or if it's going to give us further details on maybe what kinds of ways you're keeping yourself stuck in perception. Mercury's still in retrograde for a little while longer, so you have that to deal with as well. I've already done some shuffling, so we won't spend too much time doing that. Cut the deck, take the lower half, and we'll take 3 cards. Well, it's interesting here, with Mercury being in retrograde, we've got 2 cards from the Suit of Swords and an Ace of Cups. We don't have anything from the major arcana, so no soul archetype, other than I kind of give the aces roughly the same weight as I do the the major arcana cards. I mean, in terms of the minor arcana anyway, they're said to hold all of the energies, the genesis of each suit, basically. But here we're gonna take. Well, before we do that, I always do this. I do this to myself every time. It's like all of a sudden, no, I've got to do the numerology. So we said that I'll use is 15. It's the 15th rune, so we'll do a 15. Aces are 1s, +1, +10, +8. And we get 34. In fact, I'm going to switch those two around there, I think. So we've got 34. 3 and 4 is 7. So let's put that down there so I don't forget for today's numerology for the whole reading. Move my calculator out of the way. Okay, so, excuse me, if we're looking at a 7 overall for the whole reading, we're talking about letting things come to a balance. We're also talking about letting things settle out so you can understand the overall picture. And the only way you do that, I think, is to bring higher awareness into your lower consciousness, and let the personality or the ego understand that you are a soul, that the physical reality is just an illusion and sort of a vehicle to have experiences with. It's necessary, but not at the expense of letting the soul drive the experience, essentially. So drawing higher awareness down into your physical reality, into your ego, into your perceptions, to let you out of perceptions that are no longer serving you. And again, there's an element of emotion to that. Here we have the Ace of Cups, the beginning of, or the genesis of emotional awareness. It's also indicative of compassion and love and generosity, and but basically having some kind of an emotional balance that balances with intellect, essentially. And we have two cards from the suit of air here, or the element of air here with the suit of swords. So you're going to want to be balancing out, especially with the 7 numerology, emotion with intellect here, and emotion with reason. So if you're thinking about it in terms of perceptions that are maybe not working for you anymore, you might want to not only, there's the emotional need to keep them there, essentially with the Ace of Cups, but it's suggesting that need is no longer there, and it's time to let go of that. It's time to let go of any fear of maybe thinking something else, especially if you have been influenced by family or friends or a group or what have you. It's kind of hard to let go of some things, it's depending on the influences you have around you. And so emotionally you get tied to that. And with the Ace of Cups, it's suggesting, well, this may be the time to clear all of that out. And let go of the emotional hold you have on that, and allow something new to take place here, to let the waters of spirit nourish your emotions so that you can be ready to feel joy and happiness and wonder at the world around you and all the things that are happening around you, and embrace it that way, instead of being in fear and saying, well, no, I have to, this is the way I was raised, or this is the way I believe, or whatever. There could be some things coming in today where it's suggesting, well, maybe there's some other things you could be thinking of. Moving on to the 7, or rather the 8 of swords here, we see a woman blindfolded, and she's bound, and she's surrounded by 8 swords. She's got 1 foot, you can see 1 foot in the water and 1 foot on the wet soppy sand. You see that there, that one's in the water and that one's in the sand. So she's trying to find her sense of grounding, and maybe and given that she's standing in the water and on the sand here, it's not really even a full beach. She's just in this wet soppy stuff, right? She's trying to find her grounding there a little bit emotionally, because there may be maybe it's time to let go of emotions that no longer serve you, as well as ideas that no longer serve you. And here she has essentially, you can either see this as bound to those perceptions. You could see it that way. Or you could see her trying to go within and turning off the noise around her, all the chatter around her from others, the external influences that might be keeping her imprisoned. I mean, in a sense, this looks very similar in nature to Carcer, and the idea of just being trapped in your own perceptions and you can't get out of them. So, the answer, of course, is to turn off the noise and go within and access higher awareness, right? But this could also reflect and describe her perceptions that she's just bound to and she can't let go of them. But again, when you look at the numerology of the card, the 8, you're talking about strength and leadership and authority. And so her inner authority is what needs to be activated here, that awareness of the higher consciousness within, to let go of this stuff that is based on reaction and maybe even community or family with that type of influence on you, to let go of that influence and just think for yourself and decide, is this really true for me? Do I really feel this way? Do I really think this way? Or does something just not feel right anymore? And in the end, see, with the 10 of Swords, I know this looks bad, but it's not. Here you have the end of the suit of Swords, where you have letting go, maybe going within and letting go of feeling trapped and imprisoned by perceptions that no longer serve, trying to find a better emotional grounding, to be grounded in reality instead of higher reality instead of the lower reality that is actually more perception than reality. And then the 9, which we don't see, is waking up from the nightmare, getting things in order. And then here's where you let it all go. Here you see 10 swords piercing the back of this person on the ground, and it looks like he's on the sand, maybe. He's covered by a red blanket of sorts. Clearly, he's no longer alive. But on the other hand, his face is turned toward the light. You see the emotions are stilled there in the water. You don't see choppy water there. It's all just very smooth. You see some mountains in the background, but you see the night is lifting. 10 is about endings and completion, and it's also about moving on to new things. 9 is also about endings and completion. But if you were to, and I've shown this before, and I wonder if I have it just sitting here. I don't. Well, I had it here somewhere. Oh, okay. So if you ignore these, you see the 10, right? The Roman numeral 10. But then if you terminate the ends, you have Dagaz, which is the 23rd rune of the Elder Futhark. Now, and with that, you do have the end of one phase and the beginning of another. And so the idea with the 10 is this is the end of one phase here where he's letting go. He's not allowing the perceptions and the thoughts and the ideas that he's been living with to govern how he sees things anymore. Instead, his face is turned toward the light. Now, you can't see the sun exactly, but you can tell that the night is lifting and that we have a new day upon us. And so it gives him a chance, once he lets go of all of this, to begin anew, right? In terms of new perceptions and discovering what he truly believes, as well as how he truly feels about his life and his experiences and what they really mean to him. I think that right now we're all in that transition period where we're having to come to terms with some pretty interesting things. Of what the future may hold here, at least for those of us in this country. And I would have imagined that what happens here affects the rest of the world as well. And there's a lot of harm coming potentially. And so we have to figure out a way to deal with that, right? And so it may take rethinking how you see things, especially if you voted for these people, when you discover what's really afoot here. And especially if you become horrified by it all, you're going to have to come to terms with that. What emotions took you there? What intellectual stuff, ideas, thoughts, perceptions, beliefs? What aligned you there? And what did you miss? and so that you did not see what's actually going to be happening here, and the harm that will be done to the country in the process, and so and to everyone in it. You know, no one is exempt here except the billionaires. They're exempt because this will all be done to put more money in their pockets, and the rest of us will be wondering, "Ooh, what just happened?" Well, unfortunately, it means that we have to see things from a higher perspective. We cannot let ego get in the way of this. We can't let ego trap us in something that kept us from seeing the truth, the higher truth of what's really going on here, and where we want to go as individuals and where we want to go together. Because it's going to take going someplace together in order to defeat what's going to happen. And so maybe there'll be some stopgap measures along the way that maybe it's not quite as bad at first, but then eventually because some of the things that you're hearing from these people that are going to be possibly in the administration are just they're frightening, just terrifying. And what will happen to seniors, to elders, what will happen to families that need additional help, like with Medicaid. What's going to happen when it's all gone and they take it away? All the money you pay into Social Security and to Medicare for when the time comes that you need it. It's when you get older. What happens there? How much will we lose to service the billionaire class? So you see, that's the thing. And for anybody that voted for this, you're going to have to do a whole lot of soul searching, especially if it begins to impact you. And so again, hopefully there will be things that can happen to stop some of it, and that would be great. But if it doesn't, it just seems to me like we have to start rethinking how we see things and what took us there, especially if we are supporting something that's ultimately going to be so very harmful. I saw a thing the other day where some particular states already letting people know. I think it's coming from the state level where they're letting people know that the elder care that they were used to getting is not going to be there anymore. That's gone. I think it was Meals on Wheels. We're no longer going to be given. There was an ending date to it, and these folks rely on it. I used to work for an agency that was an aging-oriented agency, and we did Meals on Wheels. And I can tell you that seniors that don't get that, or disabled people that don't get them, that may be the best meal they have all day, maybe one of the only meals they have all day. And so to take that away from people that have no ability to get it anymore on their own, well, that's just horrific. Maybe they don't have family that live close. Maybe they don't have family in their lives at all. Maybe they don't have family, period, to help them. And maybe their families can't help them. So there's a lot of things, a lot of reasons why stuff like that went into play. And it just seems to me that the idea of self-imprisonment feels so much bigger than just on the individual level to me today. It just feels like, how have we imprisoned our own sense of what's right and wrong in something that is harsh and either or, and if you don't believe the way a particular religious group believes in somehow or another, you're not worthy. It's like, when, how we're all worthy. We all matter, and our lives are important. And so consequently, I think that irrespective of how you want to see the Eight of Swords here, whether you want to see it as being stuck in perception, we can see that here. But you can't ignore the fact that she's turning off the noise around her by not looking at it and not being influenced by it, and going within and using that inner strength to rethink how she sees things. And I think that once you do that, then you let go of things that no longer serve, beliefs and emotions, and in terms of the ace here, the beliefs and the perceptions and the ideas and all of that really are holding you in this place of the ego's choosing, and instead turning your head toward the light and drawing down higher awareness through Al-Yis, to enlighten yourself, to awaken to the fundamental truth of who we all are together. That it's not about us versus them, but it's about us together. And the impact that very authoritarian type of ideas will have on a very large group of people that I think I would say even the majority that voted for it had no idea what they were voting for. They just didn't believe it, maybe. I don't know. But again, it's being stuck in perception. It's being stuck in perception that the ego keeps you there, keeps you from seeing the truth of things, keeps you in that reactive mode. So going forward here in the next couple of months, this is the time to really pay close attention to what's going on and to think about things in a way that invoke higher awareness, to try to understand the bigger picture here. What is the impact of this and that? What is the how are we going to come together to prevent something truly horrible happening in this country? It didn't take long in Nazi Germany for it to happen. It took less than a year. They were sold a bill of goods, and they all bought it, or not all, but whoever bought it, and a lot of really horrific things happened as a result. And we don't want that happening here, and yet we're kind of on the precipice of it. So if something doesn't happen to curtail some of it, and who knows, we may see lawmakers say, yeah, well, I don't know about that. I don't know that we want to give up the authority that we have as in Congress to put checks and balances on a president who wants to run amok again, only this time worse. So you see that you may have some internal things that happen, but what also has to happen is, where are we grounding ourselves? Are we grounding ourselves in the isms of life? The racism, the sexism, the ageism, all of that. Are we grounded there? Is that where we're living? Because I guarantee you, if that's where you're living, then you're living here in a self-imprisoned, ego-based thing, right? Where you're not seeing the higher perspective in any of it. It just seems like humanity is on the precipice of moving in a very positive direction. Understanding that, we go forward together, we go forward elevating everyone, and not just a few in the billionaire class. That's not going to help anyone. It's not going to improve life for people and make things better for people. But this is the hand we've been dealt, apparently, and so we're going to have to figure out a way through it. And the only way we can do that is together. And so that will be a tough thing for people. I mean, all things considered. A lot of things have been said, and a lot of things, just trying to even get families to come back together because of all of this. It's been very difficult for a lot of people. And again, if we want to, invoke the Ace of Cups here, the message here of the Dove of Peace, dropping the disc into the waters of life there, nourishing the lily pads and the waters below with love and compassion and dignity and joy and fellowship and compassion with others. It will take all of us coming together to increase that energetic force to the point that the powers that ultimately will be, if they end up expressing themselves the way they say they're going to, because this isn't made up, they're saying this is what they're going to do. Well, maybe that love will be more powerful than the hate that they want to, express to everyone. And I think that this is that moment in time here where that's where we're going. But at this point, we've got to go there together. And, when we see what's going to be happening, if they can in fact make this stuff happen, which it remains to be seen. But it's It's frightening, and to see what's going to happen to people that can least afford this, and because when your house is worth nothing and your 401k is worth nothing after what they do to the dollar, well, if in fact that happens, where do we go if not to one another? And rise up and say, no, we're not accepting this. So how that manifests, I don't know, but it just seems to me that to have Alyes and Karser here today as the runes that begin the reading, it's really emphasizing the idea of drawing higher wisdom down from spirit, and from higher consciousness, and release those bonds that the ego has had on us, and move outside of that into the love field, basically, and the compassion field, and the higher consciousness field, where we all reside, together as one. It only gets messy when we want to learn things in physical reality, but that's not our reality. Our reality is in the shared higher consciousness field. That's where we live. And this wouldn't exist if we weren't there. And we're there all the time. We're not, this is just a piece of us. It's just the attention we're placing on this physical existence. And we can make it anything we want it to be. And it just, unfortunately, we may have some pretty big stumbling blocks for the next few years when we're trying to make that happen. And all that we've tried to do over the last few years to solidify that, well, we'll see how much of that's left. But who knows? Greater things than this have happened in our lives, and we've come together when we've needed to. So maybe we'll do that again. I hope we do. Because it's not going to be a fun time going forward if we don't. So release yourself from the bonds of the ego. It's not real. And realize that when you see the other, you're seeing the other side of self. It's not the other that you need to be afraid of. So anyhow, ground yourself in higher awareness instead of the bonds and bindings of the ego. So I think that's it. We'll talk again on Thursday. Join me then for another edition of As Above, So Below. I'm Jan Erickson. Check out my blog, Stepping Aside, over at imsteppingaside.com. Stuff goes out in the midnight hour on Sunday mornings. And check that out. I'd love you to do that. There's a forecast. There's the daily correspondences for work and magic, if you're into that. There's also an herb thing there that I'm doing an herbal series. It's sort of the last book I wrote is called Herbal Magica, and you can see a link to that on a couple different places you can purchase that book. Well, a couple of different websites you can go to do that at. Lots of different booksellers have it, but it's just kind of going through some of those that I like the most and sharing them with you. But you can also see the whole thing in the book if you want to look at that. But in any event, thanks again for watching. Click subscribe if you haven't, and come back again on Thursday for another edition of As Above, So Below. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.